Hey everybody. So today we're going to do a quick dive into Lens Studio. Learn how to get some stuff in there and attach it to the face and learn the interface and kind of how to navigate. So first off, I've got a folder here that you can see has some assets that I created in Photoshop and Premiere. And notice all these little assets here are small. That's going to be a recurring theme throughout this, is keeping the overall size down. So you need to make sure that you control that in Photoshop and Premiere before you get into Lens Studio. It will not work if these assets are too big. Okay, so we're going to open up Lens Studio here. And this is the page that it comes up with. Now, it comes with lots of templates here, and as you're kind of learning this, it's really fun to go through and explore with this. If you come over here to this button, all templates, you can scroll through and see all the templates that it comes with. And if you select over here again, you can look at the beginner, medium, and advanced, and these are the first one. So I encourage you to go explore. We're going to start with a blank project that allows us to kind of see how these things are constructed. So I'm going to click on the new project button over here. It's going to load that up, and you're going to see me pop up on the right side. So this is your window. Now you may have another little log window down here, but I have turned that off. So let's take a look at the interface here. So when you're jumping into a new piece of software, make sure you're looking for things that are familiar to you. So you're going to see some divisions, some things that you should start to recognize from the other software we looked at in this course. So these panels relate to that. So you have panels that have things you can add to your project, what's in your project. You have your kind of workspace here, and a preview here, and a parameters adjustment area here. So these are all familiar. So let's take a look at exactly what these are. So over here is your resources panel. That gives you all the stuff that you can put into your project. Now it fudges that a little bit, but in general, this is the stuff you can stuff that you have available and stuff that you can add to then bring into your project. So you have a little plus button here. These are all the things you can add into your resources. So you can bring stuff in to be used in your project. So these things aren't necessarily in your project yet. Above that, we have our objects panel. So this is the objects that are in our lens. Okay, so we use these to make these. Now it comes with a few things, beginning with it comes with a camera, and it comes with a lighting setup that allows you to kind of see what's in there. Over to the right is our scene panel. Okay, so this is the graphical representation of what's in our project. And you can see we have a kind of a 3D space. So if I click the right mouse button and drag, if I hold down the right mouse button and drag, I can rotate. And if I click the left one, as long as I have this tool selected, I can pan. So I can pan and rotate around. So this is a 3D representation of that space. And you can tell that by this grid that's laid down on this plane here. So this has an X, Y, and a Z axis, and we'll look at that a little more in depth a little later. We can also view a 2D scene. Right now there's not much in it, just this kind of image of a face. I find it much more useful to use the 3D space here to construct. And it also shows our light. So we can click on these things over here, and it'll highlight them in that space. So if we click on the camera, it'll highlight the camera. To the right of this is our inspector. Once again, if we click on these things, we can change the properties of these, like their position and rotation and scale, and anything we do to that. we'll go through this and look at a few of these things in a little bit. And then of course over at the right hand side is our preview window. Okay, and the preview window shows you what you're going to see in the app. So here you can see the kind of the interface for Snapchat, some of this other stuff. Now, not all of this is interactive, so this is just a graphical representation, but there is some interactivity you can do on the computer here. All right, so let's get some things into the program. And the best way to do that is I have my folder already prepared with my assets in it, so I'm going to go to File and Import. And it's going to, I've selected that folder here, but it's going to drop me into that already. Now I can select more than one. Whoops. I can select more than one thing and import at a time. So I'm just going to select everything that's in this folder and hit open. It's going to bring all that stuff in. You can see it pops down in here into the resources panel. Now, if there is a problem with the object you're bringing in, it will tell you, it'll pop up an error message here, and it'll tell you in the log window. And if you don't see your log window, you can go to Window Panels, just like in Premiere or Photoshop, and go to the logger, and it'll pop that up. So if you have any problem like this, this tells you that the file name had a problem in it, so it replaced that, so it doesn't like oddball characters in the file names. So all this stuff's in here, and they're being resized and adjusted. So I can click on any of these and I can see a kind of graphical, or I can see a representation of that. So here's that image. I have a GIF here. A lot of animated GIFs. I tend to like those. I have some PNG files. We'll talk more about these file possibilities in class. But all that's available on the resources page for Lens Studio that's on a Timid Mule. So I have some pictures. I have a little video. The video doesn't preview, but animated GIFs, things like that. Okay, so let's start to put something together. All right, so I don't have anything in my scene except for the camera and the lights right now. So we're going to go and add something to our scene. Now we can't just drag from here to here. That would be intuitive, but it doesn't quite work that way. We need to tell it kind of what to do with these things. So we're going to go up to the top of this panel, and we're going to click on the plus button. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of tell the program kind of generally what we're looking for. In this case, we're going to attach things to the face. So we're going to scale things to the face. Now there's a lot you can do, so we want to kind of limit that a little bit. So we're going to go into the Objects Add menu, and we're going to select Face Effects, and you can just scroll down to find that. This just sort of brings you to that area. And we're going to select Head Binding. Okay. And that's going to bring in an effect and a head binding, and if we hit the drop down menu there, it's going to include something called a face occluder. And if we look into the scene window, we're going to see some things pop up here. So that's our face occluder there. It's that kind of wireframe, and our head binding area. So this is a 3D representation of a person's head. Okay. Now notice nothing changed here. So these are, you can think of these as bits of code that say, okay, whatever's in this section gets stuck to the head. All right, now we need something to stick to the head, and we're going to go up to the menu again, and we're going to add, up towards the top, we're going to add an image object. Okay, now that adds an image object. Now, you can see right off, this is kind of the generic placeholder for an image. That adds that in kind of front of me in the screen. And if I'm moving around, it's not doing anything. And you can see it kind of that way as well. So we can see this kind of plane represents that image. Now, so let's put a picture there. So if I highlight the image object here, number one, if I click on it, I can rename it. But if I highlight that, over in the inspector panel, gives me all the information about it. So we're going to attach an image. So this is essentially a 3D plane that sits in that graphical space there. So we're going to attach a texture, in our case is an image, to it. And if I click over here where it says texture, you're going to see all the stuff I've put in here is available to me. So let's put this image of the stars in, this little animated GIF. And you're going to see that that all of a sudden takes up the entire screen. And if we look over here in the scene panel, we can kind of see it in relationship to this. So I'm going to click on this. Now this gives us an opportunity to talk about our toolbar up here. Okay, so I already said something about the hand tool. The hand tool allows us to pan in the scene if we left click and rotate if we right click. We also have a zoom scaling or a zoom tool, which, to be honest with you, doesn't do a whole lot. Let me take a little break here and say, I'm learning this program as well as you guys. What I really want to kind of bring you over to is this right hand tool, and that is the combined move tool. And when I click on that and I have an object selected, you're going to see that it has all these kind of little bars and things kind of around it. So this allows me to manipulate that object in space. So if I click on the arrows, the up arrow, and drag, you're going to see that it drags that object up. Same thing if I click on the right arrow, drags it to the right and left. And I click on the forward arrow, it drags it towards the camera or away from the camera. You're going to see what happens when it gets back here. It occludes the face because of that object in there. So allows my face to come through. So some other things you can do with this little moving tool here. We can scale things bigger and smaller by dragging on these bars. Okay, now you can make it deeper as well, but this is a two-dimensional thing, so it won't be deep. We can also rotate. So if I grab this round piece, I can rotate that around. Either the X or the Y axis or the Z axis. There. So I can move these things in three-dimensional space. Okay, and you can see as I'm doing that, these position, rotation, and scale numbers are changing. So you can change these things. See, this is the scale on the X axis there. This is the rotation around, and let's reset this. There we go. Uh-oh, did I lose it? Nope, there it is. Scale that up back. Now I can rotate this just around the y-axis. The y-axis is the up and down one. I can rotate it around the z-axis there, or the rotate it around the z-axis, which is back and forth, and of course the x-axis. Whoops, the x-axis, which is across. So these allow me to position these things in space. All right, now things get a little weird when you start moving around too much. Okay, so just be careful about that. Okay, so we have an object. It's in our space. We have a thing called a head occluder, which blocks it from the head. You can see if I move my head over, it blocks it. Now, it is depth sensitive here. So, it's a little weird, a little glitchy as you get things. I'm going to reset this again and then scale this back up. There we go. Let's go to scale tool. There. Okay. So you can, if you play with these tools a little bit, you can just select which one you want as well. All right, so what can we do with this? All right, so let's get this attached to the head. So when I move my head, the image of the stars moves. Okay, so what I need to do is come back over here to the objects panel, and I want to grab this object, this image object. Let's actually rename that to stars. I'm going to grab the stars, and I'm going to move that over to where it will become under the head binding. So if I drop that onto the head binding, you're going to see what happens on my preview window. That sticks to the head, and it changes the view to a 2D view, and I can kind of move that around like this by dragging like that. It's a little weird. And I can scale it as well here. Here we go. And if I go to the 3D scene, then you're going to be able to see kind of the representation of that sitting on that face wireframe. So that lets that amount through. And so if I grab my my position tool, I can slide that back so that it now sticks to my head. So anywhere I rotate my head. Now remember, this is a 2D kind of representation. It's not going to be perfect as you really rotate your head sideways. It does its best job to kind of twist that plane around. But now you can see that I can start to stick things to my face. Okay, let's grab some other things here. Let's see, the stars is kind of interesting, but let's put that in the background. Actually, so let's mess around a little bit. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to move it back out, and I'm going to move it to the background behind my head there. So let's move that up. And let's well, actually, let's turn that off. You can turn things, visibility on and off by the objects panel over here. So let's try something else. Let's grab this one. Let's make a new image object by coming and clicking on the plus button. Let's do that. Let's call this eyeball. Like that. And let's select our eye number 2. Like that. So I have another animated GIF. I'm going to drag that. I'm going to put it over here on my head thing, and you can see that that locks that to my face. So let's say I didn't want my face poking through there. Let's scale this guy down a little bit. All right. So if I click on my eyeball and I don't want that to my face to pop through, let's say I just want it to replace my face, I can come over here into my inspector panel and unclick depth sort there. Now it changes the position a little bit, but that's all right. We can fix that. Let's scale it down a little bit more. Lock that back to our face there. All right, so now I have this this guy kind of floating in front of my face. Let's go back to the 3D scene and take a look at it. Okay, we're going to move that guy back a little bit so he kind of locks a little bit closer to my face. So remember, we're dealing with three-dimensional space here. So you really have to kind of play around to get things where you want them. So as you're building your self-portrait, you can start to add things. Let's add this bird here. We'll put another image object in. So the image object is something that can contain a number of different things. So we click on this, it'll contain any of these objects here. All right. Okay, so this is kind of how you build this up. I'm gonna put this. Where's my bird? Let's put the bird in there, and hit OK. Now it's way in front. If I go out to the 3D view, I can kind of see that animated GIF there. So I'm going to click on the tool. I'm going to scale that way down. Start to see the bird flap in front. It needs to be a different color, but so it's a little more visible. So let's slide this guy up a little bit. Where'd you go? There he is, flying across the front of the page. So right now he's in front of the head. So if I move him back, he should get blocked by the head. Now it takes a little fiddling, so I can kind of look at him kind of flying behind the head there. All right. So this is the idea about kind of building up this stuff. So you start to add things. So let's go back. Now, what I'm going to do is go up here to File and Save. I'm going to save this as a demo. Now, I made a folder for Snapchat lenses, and I want you guys to do the same. So find a spot on your disk or desktop. Make a folder for your lenses to be, and you can see the lenses get to the files get to be put in here. I'm going to call this video demo lens. Save that. Let's go in and take a look at one of the templates. So I've saved my lens. I'm going to go back up here to the home menu, click on home, and let's go in and look at one of the templates now. And the first one comes up is 2D objects. So if we click on 2D objects, that's going to come up into our thing. You can see what happens. It automatically starts and applies some stuff. So this is one of the default lenses. It has the antlers and the eyeballs. A template is a good place to start. So we can go over here to the objects panel and really take a look at all the stuff that's in there. So we have these different face effects. So these are 3D object, 2D object examples, right? And these are these bindings. So we did the head occluder, forehead binding, base occluder, right cheek. So there's all kinds of things you can do in here that sort of show you where you can put things. And a good way to play with this is to then go, and you can see these are image objects. So you can go down here, you can go to File, Import. You can grab an image object like your self-portrait, or a part of your self-portrait, and then you can drag this. Oh, excuse me, you need to make a another image object. So let's grab an image object. Let's name that, let's change the name of that, Nauman. And let's select that in our texture. There we go. Now let's drag that to our forehead binding window there. Okay, so we can turn off purple ears, and we can change the scale on this so it sticks to our forehead like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here for this video. It's the introduction. Just get in there and start to play, start to add things. You can stack things up. One thing you do need to be watch out for is this little window up here. So how big the estimated size of your project is. If it is above 4 megabytes, they won't take it. Okay, it has to go through Snapchat to get on. So you can see that here. You can also go into project info, and I'll talk more about exporting these next week, but this tells you can name your lens name for your, not for your file on your computer, but for the published project. Okay, it gives you the size there, whether it's made for the front or rear camera. So we'll change that before you do anything. So I'll go over exporting in the next week.